Hello, Internet. It's me, Cobb Manscape, James. Yeah, today's rainy and cold, and we have no working heaters. And floor heaters take a long time, and they're kind of expensive to use. So I lit 9 candles. Well, I had 9 candles lit. Two of them have since burnt out. But yeah, my room is toasty, and I decided to film a video before the fumes make me nauseous, I guess. I don't know. Hasn't happened yet, but you never know. Anyways, so I have a big old collection update. I have actually a few that I need to get out of the way. We'll see how many I can get done. I think this one that I'm going to work on right now is going to be quite a few things. A collection of music that you might think is weird or doesn't go together, and I understand that, and I agree. And that's why I think, I don't know, I specifically curated this together as one collection update because I thought it was fascinating. First up is a band that I have had very little interest in. That is A Perfect Circle. I'm trying to deal with my lighting. There you go. A Perfect Circle. This is their debut album, self-titled, I believe. No, wrong. It's their debut, but the name of the album is Mer de Nom, Sea of Names. Now, I don't even know what to say about this. All I know is that it is technically a what are they called? Super band, super project, where they have just a bunch of other famous musicians come together to work on a single project. So of course, the only one I can name off of the top of my head is Tool's Maynard, James Maynard Keenan or something like that. Let me get that straight really quick. This is embarrassing. But yeah, I found it at a. We went to Martinez. There's a few actually next to each other on 2 blocks specifically. There's three uh, antique stores and thrift shops that stores of that variety where you can get used stuff, and they had some music, so I decided to check it out. And unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. There's people from Tool on this. Oh god, this is a great start. It's been a while. Can you tell? Anyways, so this is proggy rock, alt metal. I don't know. I think people tend to take Tool and A Perfect Circle by extension and kind of place them on this kind of elevated commercial rock pedestal. And to some extent, I can agree. I can hear specifically with Tool. I don't listen to them, but I can be okay, that's alternative kind of proggy metal, hard rock combination. That it makes sense. A Perfect Circle, at least here, this is just kind of more along the lines of post grunge. It's not that much different from your Creeds and your Nickelbacks. Well, maybe Nickelback not so much, but your Creeds or your 12 Stones. It's not that different from that stuff. So there's some songs on here that I actually really like. I could not tell you probably what they actually are, but some of them are really good. And but a lot of the time I was just kind of middling on this. I didn't love it, didn't hate it. I guess I don't regret buying it. It cost me $4 maybe. These antique shops and stuff, thrift stores and the both, they've been getting a little, pricey with their stuff. What are you gonna do? Okay, next thing I got, same place, actually all 5 of these first releases I got from the same place. Uh, this is very different. Clan of Xymox's self-titled debut album, Clan of Xymox. They are a shit. What's the country they're from? I want to say they're Dutch. They were signed by 4AD, the same record label that did Dead Can Dance for sure, and there's a few other big names. They were a goth label. But this is released in 1985. I couldn't tell you what year this version was released. It's a pretty faithful, reprinting, repress from what I can tell, made in France. It has 2 remixes, but in general, this is just a solid middle length, 80s new wave, dark wave kind of album. It is a lot of fun. It's not really the kind of music I would put on for active listening, you live in that world for a while, but it is great to put on as background music and noise, and it just has a nice kind of, I don't know, that electronic new wave vibe. Some of this, they have nice melodies that you can find catchy and stuff, but it is not my genre. That being said, I did really enjoy getting this. Yeah, it was good. Mostly, I mostly picked it up because I know that, like, goth YouTube tends to like Clan of Xymox, and I was like, well, I should give it a go. It didn't cost a lot of money, so no regrets. Really actually enjoyed this one. Okay, something different. Actually, it would make sense that I'd be into this. This is Kate Bush's, what is this, her 5th album, Hounds of Love? I'm sorry with the lighting. I am trying to make this not a glare-tastic experience. This is her 5th album, Hounds of Love. Chet. The lighting is awful. You know, I thought the lamp was going to be a good idea. Oh well, too late now. Can't take it back. And this is a really artsy pop. Like, I don't know what exactly I was expecting from this. All I knew is that I liked the opening track, which is Running Up That Hill, you know, in quotes, or in, yeah, no, not in quotes, in parenthesis, A Deal with God. Classic song. Everyone loves that song. It's been covered to death. But this is very different than what I was expecting. I was expecting more like 80s, like, you know, stereotypical 80s style produced kind of, I guess, atmospheric pop, for better word, for lack of a better word. But no, this is actually very artsy, very different, very kind of Baroque kind of things going on. Almost a little bit progressive at times, especially, so it's broken up into 2 sequences. There's Hounds of Love and the 9th Wave, which, for the record, I think the 9th Wave sequence, it's like 6 tracks or 7 tracks, is a much stronger, much more interesting, much more experimental group of songs than the Hounds of Love sequence. I specifically love Under Ice and Waking the Witch and Jig of Life, and it's just great. It is fantastic. It covers an array of sounds and influences, and it's just off the wall and great. And I fully understand why Kate Bush is like a classic of British pop music. It makes sense. Moving on, the last 2 releases in this bunch is I have MCMXC AD by Enigma and Cross of Changes by Enigma. I got into Enigma because a friend mentioned that her dad liked them, and I, you know, just on a whim started listening to it on YouTube, and honestly, really nice stuff. New age as shit. I actually had a small little phase at the end of my college career where I would just kind of listen to this one channel. I don't remember what it's called. I'll see if I can find it and link it. But they just upload like cassette rips of like 80s new age music and 80s and 90s new age music. And I was kind of living for it. The thing is, new age is broken up into, I feel like, 2 categories. There is the like actual songs, music, art, like artistry part of new age, and then there's just like the meditation side, where it's just what it says on the tin. It's just like some dingling harps, like harp plucking or keyboard boom, and then someone whispering in your ear to guide you through meditation, and it's very like proto ASMR. That's the stuff that I didn't like. This is the stuff that I like. Like, there's some speaking on here to do that, like, meditation. We're gonna take you on a trip through Enigma, or whatever the line is. But these are actually, like, songs. That being said, the debut I actually liked a lot more. I think it just has... First of all, I love the keyboard playing and that, like, whatever that is, that, like, pan flute noise that they're using on the keyboard, and the choirs and the, like, classical singing. That stuff shows up more on here. It does make an appearance here, but it's a lot more sparse. And when I listen to this, I get... when I listened to Cross of Changes, which came out in 1993, I believe, and this was 1990, just to be clear. Whenever I listen to Cross of Changes, I kind of get like a Dead Can Dance vibe, and maybe merged with some like trip-hop or something. Not my favorite. I enjoyed a lot of it, but it is, honestly, I prefer the debut. Yeah, so those are my first 5 releases. I'll be right back to grab some more. Okay, I am back. I had to deal with the dog for a second. Okay, so this next stack is all by the same artist, and that's because a seller on eBay was auctioning all of their stuff by this band, I assume it's all of it, as a bundle. So, this is named after the Sumerian hero Gilgamesh, comes Japanese nu metal band Girugamesh.
Girugamesh!
And I debated whether I should be more honest and put this stuff at the beginning of this video, because I got this stuff first. But no, I decided I'll lure you into a false sense of security. We're going to talk about nu metal. Not much, mostly just this. They come from what I can tell, more of the Linkin Park school of thought, which, if I'm going to argue anything about nu metal, it'll be that most nu metal did not sound like Linkin Park. I will die on this hill. Most of it sounded like Korn and Cold Chamber and Limp Bizkit. Stuff like that, Kitty, on and on. Most of it did not sound like Linkin Park. So, Girugamesh. They got big because of SakuraCon. Because they got memed. Because of the ad for SakuraCon. You know the one. Girugamesh. Girugamesh! So, I have a bunch of stuff. I'm mostly going to talk about the full-length releases because I didn't really listen to the, like, miscellaneous stuff that I also got. So, first up is their debut album, 26's 13's Reborn. And this, to me, is just a really solid debut. I think it's just a bunch of young people who want to get together and play this, like, dark, grimy, bouncy, fun, like, heavy music. I mostly, you know, it's pretty straightforward nu metal. Have some groovy stuff in there. There's also, you know, the vocals are a bit unrefined, especially compared to what they'd sound like in later releases. Kind of unrefined, that like throaty, yelly kind of growl. Fun rhythmic stuff, specifically with the vocals. Especially the one that, you know, I noticed most was the second track, like the actual like opening song, like the song, not just the intro, is a jarring fly. And there's this great, like in the pre-chorus, there's this like choppy, like whisper growl thing, intercut with like actual like growls, and it's great. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, it's great to like walk around. Like if you're just listening to music and you're walking around, this is good for it. And I'm not really gonna get into like the different nuances between all these releases. Just know that there is differences, and maybe if I can remember, because it's been a while, I'll touch on them, things that stuck out to me, or things I noticed. And then I have their sophomore album, self-titled, and this one is a bit more varied. It's a bit more eclectic. From what I remember, it was this one that has there's like one song that's very straightforward, like pure 80s, like nostalgia bait, like traditional heavy metal, thrash metal kind of inspirations. You know, there's some like dancey stuff. It goes maybe a bit more. No, you know what? I'm also going to talk about this in contrast to their third album, Music, 2008's Music, and this is a bit more electronic, a bit more dancey, a bit more industrial influenced. From what I remember, again, this is all from what I remember. So this is a bit more like fun, electronic, maybe goes down into that like Linkin Park kind of early 2000s kind of sound a bit more, as opposed to Girugamesh, the self-titled, which I think leans, you know, it is a lot less grimy than the debut, but is definitely just as like dark, I want to say, with a bit more variation across its runtime. Next up, I'm going to talk about these singles really quick, just because to get them out of the way. I also have the Alive singles and the Border single, which I believe... You know what, I'm not going to get into the details of these. Some of them are like singles with one title, but they have two songs of different, you know, with different names. Mostly, from what I remember, these are just songs that were B-sides to albums that I already showed, or even one that is yet to come. Next up, I have their fourth album. This is one they actually already had. I'm only showing the one that I got when I ordered, but I already had this from a couple years back, and that is their fourth album, Now, with the kid. It's a bad cover. I don't really like a lot of their album covers, specifically this one. This one is like a love letter to late 90s, early 2000s, like pop culture, pop music really, specifically Western stuff. Like, there's just, they lean more into the Linkin Park stuff, but they also have a bit more of a like Limp Bizkit vibe across this. So there's like the older nu metal that they're kind of, you know, paying homage to, but there's also a few songs that just give off like NSYNC vibes. And what's the other one? It was NSYNC, and then there was also that other boy band. You know, there's just that like early 2000s, late 90s acoustic guitar production that a lot of those like teenage pop groups had with the like clicking, like snappy beats. Like there's some of that on here, but in general, it's just like a mix of new metal and like J-rock, which is honestly, they also have that current, you know, that stereotypical like J-rock chorus structure. They kind of have just an undercurrent of that throughout their career, which is fine, which is, I like it. It's just a lot of that stuff tends to sound really samey after a while. But yeah, this is probably the stuff that is the most two-dimensional that they've released. Like this has like least depth, at least sonically to me. Some decisions that are kind of baffling and embarrassing, but in general, it's a fun album, and I have no hard feelings on it. You know, it's just Girugamesh. Next up is I don't have their fifth album. I don't have that one. I think it's called Go, or is this Go? I think it's called Go. That's now. I think it was called Go. That's not the point. I don't have it. Instead, I did get their last full-length album, Monster 2013. And this is more, like, less nu metal-y. This is when the trend for a lot of these modern metal bands was leaning more towards a combination of, like, metalcore, and they're already, like, nu metal-y kind of stuff. It's, like, that modern metal stuff. And honestly, I think they do it really well. Yeah, and this is actually the first album that I heard by them, and even then it wasn't like all of it. It was just like a few songs here and there, and I liked it. This is what I was looking for primarily when I started getting into this band, and I like it a lot. It's just very modern. I would describe the sound modern metal, like radio stuff, sort of. Okay, so Incomplete, I have two versions of it, I guess, and this is because Incomplete, from what I remember, is a EP with some outtakes from the Monster album, and like I put them on my like iTunes, and I put everything together, compiled everything into the Monster album. But I'm gonna be honest, these are probably the songs I've heard the least so far, and I don't really know what to tell you other than it's just an extension of Monster, which is again good. It's good, catchy, heavy, nicely produced modern metal. I have Live Best. I have not actually listened to the Live Best album, so I have nothing to say about it, but I do have it. I also have the Gravitation EP, which again, I actually haven't really listened to, but I should. I focus primarily on the full lengths when I was like working on my room. I was doing some like, I was painting some furniture, staining some furniture. My room was covered in tarp, and I had my stereo system, which is now on my bookshelf here. Just in the corner playing music, and I just did the full lengths. I didn't actually listen to the EPs, which again I should. And the last thing that they released before breaking up, I believe, was the Chimera EP in 2016. Oh yeah, by the way, Girugamesh broke up a couple years back, and this is I also didn't listen to this one, and I know I should, but I'm just showing it off because you know what, I got all this for $40, I think, and that is a steal because stuff from Japan costs so much money. So much it costs so much because of various reasons, but actually, you know what, it's mostly two. Import costs are a bitch, and also CDs and media just in general cost more in Japan because they actually rely most of their sales on physical stuff, so they raise the price and add bonus stuff to make sure that they sell the Japanese versions in Japan, and they don't pay money themselves to import other things into Japan. That's why. Yeah. Last stack of stuff. A lot of this I got from, I went to my local CD record music stores. Two of them. I went to the Rasputin and Amoeba, both in Berkeley. It's been a while since I've been there. I actually wanted to go do that last spring, and then the world closed down, so I didn't get to do that. But alas, I went and spent my money there, as I wanted to. First up, something that I did not think I'd ever really get or be into, but this is Warlock. You know, Germany's Warlock, the first band that Dio was, not Doro, not Dio. Doro was in. This is late 80s, just fun, heavy metal, hard rock, arena rock-ish. It's fun stuff. Let's look at that. This is Triumphant Agony. That's what the album's called. Very, you know, Wizards of the Coast or whatever. A little bit. It's really fun stuff. I bought it on a whim. It was in like the clearance bin, or like they don't really have clearance bins at Amoeba, but it was kind of hidden away. It was pretty cheap. Out of print. They put the sticker on it. And I don't really know how to describe it other than it's just kind of like your like popcorn, cotton candy, 80s heavy metal. It's just a lot of fun. I don't typically love references to like heavy metal in my music. Like when a lyrical theme is heavy metal, I think it's just like really cheesy and meta. And I don't like it. But you know what? Metal Tango is fun. It's a fun song. But yeah, so I'm usually not into like that like traditional heavy metal like gravelly voice. Like really at all. That's not really my thing. But I think Doro does it really well. And it's just flawless and easy. And yeah, I really enjoyed this album. It was not really something that I would be into, but it kind of made me curious about other heavy metal stuff. And I have one more thing that I bought in that vein since, but it's not gonna be in this video. That's gonna be later. But yeah, so it got me a little curious, and I need to actually like explore like 80s traditional heavy metal a bit more. And new wave of British stuff, or whatever it's called. Nwabum. Stuff like that. Yeah, so that's Warlock. And next up I have something that also would not have been for me. And honestly, this is the one I'm like, no, this was not for me. And that is Venom Prism Samsara. And I bought this because I got it confused with another band. I was on a Tumblr page a while back. This was years ago, I think. 2019, whenever this came out. 2019. So, and they said that someone posted that their favorite albums of the year at that point were this album by Venom Prism and something else by what I realize now was a different band. So that's what I was remembering. I remember this one, but not the other one. Red Handed Denial. And I was thinking of that Red Handed Denial album that I was interested in. Not so much this one. And yeah, I just got them confused and I bought the Venom Prison album. It's not for me. This is like, you know, death metal, hardcore, and all those people, they're into those genres a lot more than I am. You know, they really are into this, and I don't see the appeal. Yeah, I don't know. It's just not for me. This was released by Prosthetic Records, if anyone was wondering. It's a, you know, really just aggressive, like death metal, a little bit of a hardcore vibe, a little bit. Mostly death metal, though. Yeah, it's not for me. But I do like the artwork, so there's that. Next up is Wisdom. It's a French band. This is their second album, released in 2012 on Scarlet Records. And this is their second album, Blind? Question mark. Let's see if you can see the artwork better on the booklet. This is a symphonic, progressive kind of metal. I listening to this and looking at their history, I want to say that what they were trying to do was kind of fill the gap left by After Forever. When After Forever broke up in 2009, there was a gaping hole for an aggressive, really, you know, big sounding symphonic metal band to kind of fill that slot. However, I kind of feel like their plans were thwarted by the return of Exandria, who debuted their fifth album, and the first one in 5 years, with a new singer, in January or February of the same year. And they kind of just fell into that slot because their sound at that time became that big, orchestrated, aggressive, like, they were definitely kind of picking up where bands like, you know, After Forever I mentioned, but also the trends that like Epica had laid down and Leave Zeiss were able to cultivate after big orchestrations were actually like kind of a thing, and like that bands were able to do even if they weren't like the biggest bands. But yeah, so to some extent I think they were trying to fill that slot, and they got, you know, Exandria got there first. And yeah, and I don't even know if it would have gone for them that well, because as much as there are, you know, as I did admit that there's a few songs on here that I think are really good, I think in general this album has a problem with being a little bloated, a little overly long, and the melodies specifically, because, you know, these bands are driven by their melodies, are not necessarily fully fleshed out, and it can kind of sound repetitive. Not to mention that I don't think the singer at the time that they had was very good. She was fine. I didn't love her though, gotta say. Next up is something very different. This is Sisters of Mercy. First and Last and Always. This is their debut album from, I believe, 1985. Yep. This is an Elektra Asylum Records version, I guess. That's not the point. The point is, goth rock from the 80s. Love this. This is great. Honestly, like, hands down, probably of this whole stack of albums I've showed off today, this is probably my favorite thing. It's just really good. Like, it's just good. I don't even know what to say. It's the Sisters of Mercy. I'm blanking on all of the members' names, but let's do some digging. Who the fuck is the singer of Sisters of Mercy? I was thinking of Andrew Eldritch, but I think that's Bauhaus. But yeah. So I guess maybe I'll cut this. We'll see. Sisters of Mercy, goth rock. I got first into some goth music like 2 years ago now, and I keep meaning to get into some other of like the bigger, older ones, like, you know, the really legacy bands at this point. And Sisters of Mercy are the ones that I actually got into first. I tried Bauhaus, didn't love it. I tried The Cure, liked that less. Susie Sue and the Banshees is really hit and miss with me. I really like some of Susie's stuff, and I do not feel the same way about a lot of her other stuff. So, you know, it's an ever-growing journey listening to all these bands. Yeah, this is fucking great. I don't even know how to describe it other than it's like every preconceived notion that you have about goth rock, but like done really, really well. So yeah, that was good. It's good stuff. Okay, so I got interrupted, and I've decided just to redo this last segment over. Yes, next up I have Catatonia's second album, Brave Murder Day. It's really water damage. That's how they sold it to me. On the upside of that, it did only cost $2. So this is the Century Black version that was released in 1997, and it has, I believe, what are an EP that they released shortly either before or after as bonus tracks. So that's nice. It's, you know, it's a complete package that you got, which is great. Oh, it's the For Funerals to Come EP. So I got into Catatonia in like 2017, 2018 when I was going through a Death Doom phase of sorts. And it was really, a lot of it was me trying to like get into the genre that I feel indebted to as someone who is a gothic metal listener, because that's where gothic metal came from, is Death Doom. And Catatonia is a band that we've all heard of, everyone has heard of. It's just that, like, whenever I come into bands that are really old and have existed for a long time, really old, so they've, you know, released albums pretty regularly, like every 2 years almost, you know, I get really intimidated by the size of their discography, and my instinct is to just not bother. I'm like, you know, it's too intimidating, too much. No one can agree on what is the most important album. Fuck it, I'm just not going to bother. I feel that way about My Dying Bride a lot, and Paradise Lost. Which one's the one that I can't actually ever get into? Paradise Lost, I've not been able to get into. But My Dying Bride has a few albums that I'm interested in. That's neither here nor there. Back to Catatonia. So I would like put their stuff on when I was at school, like on the weekend, and I'd like hole up in a classroom and like bang out an essay or like a lab report. And yeah, that I would just put on whatever, mostly extreme stuff that I was like fancying that day. So it would either be like Catatonia or who was it? Opeth or Cradle of Filth, or what was another one? There was another one that I'm blanking on. I don't think it was Wicked Witch. It was not Wicked Witch. And that's neither here nor there. The point is, I got into it in a time when, like, it gave me... It's great to write to. Like, it gives you some drive and energy. Because the music is very consistent. And it has, you know, great, like, kinesis to it. But it also doesn't really draw too much attention to itself if you need to, like, kind of block it out. So, this is great for that. And yeah, it's just really solid Death Doom. Great. I think this is what got me to realize that, like, also I was kind of intimidated by Death Doom, mostly because I thought it was, like, so much more extreme than stuff that I'd already listened to. But really, listening to some of it now, I'm like, oh, no. Honestly, it's, like, pretty on par. Maybe a little bit more sometimes, but it's not that much different than a lot of the 90s Gothic Doom stuff. So, I fell right into it pretty easily. Okay, next up, I have, as I mentioned earlier in this video, I compared A Perfect Circle. to this band. That is 12 stones. And yes, a perfect circle is a bit more, has a small amount more of finesse or pretension to it. Whatever. 12 Stones is very straightforward, like alternative metal, post-grunge. They are a Christian group sometimes, from what I've gathered. It's kind of, you can kind of tell here, but like at no point do I ever think that they actually call out God by name. There's a lot of like vague you capital Y-U, even though in the lyrics all the lyrics are capital, so you can't really tell the difference. Anyways, the point is kind of Christian-y, post-grunge, very early 2000s. This was released by Wind Up Records in 2002. Wind Up Records being the original record label that signed Evanescence. In fact, the singer, Paul McCoy, of this band was the guy that did the Bring Me to Life part. And I got into this band in 2015. It's been a while. This is actually the first thing I've ever bought by them. In 2015 is when I mentioned earlier that I wanted to get into nu metal. And that is actually something that's been in my life on and off, for a few years now. I think the most recent version of that in my life was recently, it was this year. But then I had another one like 2018 and then another one 2015. It comes and goes for me. I want to get a little bit more into nu metal. It's just a shame that so much of it is garbage. Anyways, so at the time this was part of that, even though looking back at it, this is not really nu metal at all. I don't even consider a lot of bands that people will like call nu metal. Nu metal has a sound. Post-grunge is different. Post-grunge. So yeah. I liked it. Some of the vocal melodies are kind of basic, but there are hooks and there's some catchy stuff here. And I think, again, it's just some, it's just a bunch of guys just banging out some songs, and it's fine. And, it can be that and it not be an issue. But I will say that from what I remember, their second album, Potter's Law, nope. I'm blanking on the name. I'll insert here. That album is actually a lot better than this, and that is what really got me interested in this band, was their sophomore album. Last two things. Speaking of goth music, I mentioned Sisters of Mercy earlier. This is Diva Destruction. It started off as a two-piece, and it quickly became a one-piece after the release of their debut. I don't really remember the name of the person who runs it. Her name is Deborah Fogarty. This is her on the back. And she is Diva Destruction at this point. This is her third album, released on Metropolis Records in 2006. And I believe, from what I remember of listening to her stuff, is that the sound in the beginning was a lot more dark wavy. And by the time we get here, it's a lot more electro pop with some like dark wave and goth influences thrown in, but it's a lot more electronic. I honestly could not tell you if there's actually any like guitar on it, because a lot of goth music is defined by the guitar and the guitar tone. Yeah, it's just like dark electronic. It's fine. I remember liking her first or two albums better. This is like absolutely fine. I can put it on and like jam to it. Jam is also not the right word, but it's very just moody electronic, like electro pop kind of gothy. Yeah, don't hate it, don't love it. It's fine. I like it well enough. It is not my favorite by Diva Destruction though. The last thing, it's been a long time coming. This is a band that I got into like more than a decade ago. I got into them in 2008 times when I was like 12, and that is The Pierces, the folk pop duo of sisters, Catherine Pierce and Allison Pierce. And this is their third album, 13 Tales of Love and Revenge. Honestly, it's an eclectic collection of sounds. Some of it is your basic folksy pop, and some of it is a bit more like indie. And there's one song, Turn on Billy, which is a lot more of a jazzy kind of song. And then there's like Boring, which has I don't know what genre of music that is, but it's very like Paris, New York, like long. It's probably just jazzy again, just a different kind, but like long, bloated, like sexy horns and saxophone and stuff. And it's just interesting. For those of you who don't know, they wrote that song Secret that was used, I think, on both the Gossip Girl and Pretty Little Liars soundtrack. I think it was actually like the theme song to Pretty Little Liars. Yeah, it's that group. I really like them. I loved this album and their next one after that, and some of the songs off of the next one after that. And they kind of went, they went as a group. They went on hiatus, and they both did some solo stuff that I actually never checked out for whatever reason. But yeah, and they recently came back together and did a 2020, I believe it was 2020, version of Secret, so you can find that on YouTube. It's nice. But yeah, that's what I got. This is a big collection of music. Oh my god, so much to talk about. I hope you liked it, or at least got, you built some interest around some of this music. This is what I got, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do another one today. That was a lot of talking, and I kept being interrupted over and over and over again. Anyways, thank you. Macabre Manscape out. Girugamesh!